Right, so this video, I'm actually probably going to name it How to Get a Girlfriend because, as you can see, and I've actually taken this from Bumble, which is a dating app, but this particular one, this file was called Tinderlikes.headless, and I'm moving it into my legacy folders because number one, it's no longer needed, and number two, I'm going to zoom in now so you can see this. Control plus, just so that I get it really big. So I created an app that does Bumble, but Tinder works in the same way. These are things that you swipe left and swipe right on. I wrote this in December 2020. We're now in 2023. So a lot of things have changed in that course of time. But what actually do I do, or what actually does this code do if you want to go and get a girlfriend in Python, or a boyfriend if you're a girl, depending on which way around you are, whatever it is, if you want to be able to swipe right and left on people. There are different ways of doing this, and you needed to log in. And back in the day when I actually did this video, or not this video, when I actually wrote this application, I think that the number of swipes that you were able to do was quite a few hundred. I think now it's more limited, but you could still automate a process. And this is generally one of the procedures that you can automate the process. Now, I had to use a WebDriver, and the reason I had to use the Selenium WebDriver is because an API isn't given. So these types of platforms, obviously, they're not user friendly in terms of they want to monetize the user. So they're not going to give you an API that's going to let you do stuff and automate anything and do it for free. So you have to do this type of thing in another way, or you have to pay to be on the app. And I just thought it'd be a nice bit of fun to do, and a bit of Python practice and so forth. And it worked very nicely because I could automate a process, and it could sort of like swipe on a few hundred people and to like do that every single day and so forth. Now, which modules do I use? You can see some of the modules that I used that are now grayed out, but actually they are used somewhere in the code, or at least they were at a time. But then there's other modules that are not grayed out. They're like colourful green as opposed to dark green. So the time module, I actually do use the random module as well, and the reason why is because I like one of the things that you want to be careful of if you're doing this kind of thing is that you want to, if you go sequentially in time or do things too quickly, potentially you'll be classified as a bot. So putting in a random time is quite helpful for that type of thing. Now, I've got all of this as well, and I think here's my Chrome driver, and I can tell this is definitely a 2020 vintage, because you no longer, you can do this, and it actually does work, but you no longer point to a particular Chrome driver.exe, because then you have to do it. There is a different way with Selenium of effectively downloading the latest Chrome driver. Because basically Chrome driver is something that drives Google Chrome, which is your web app, and that's continuously updated, and it's updated quite frequently, so frequently that I think it's like a couple of times a year, 2, 3, 4 times a year even, that it actually got quite annoying because I had to keep doing that. So there's an alternative method for that as well. But here's some of the Selenium commands that that were needed to be used. WebDriver wait, expected conditions, because something would have popped up requiring a password or something to come in, and things like that. So and you can see here, all I've done really is I've bastardized what was once written for Bumble, because they're the same type of thing. They're both like swipe left and swipe right applications. So I've just bastardized it for Tinder, and the only thing that you really have to do for that purpose is basically change the base URL in some way. So, and this is pointing to tinder.com, but if it was going to be true for Bumble, it'd be bumble.com. And if I was writing this like a ubiquitous, I actually had one piece of code for each, so I've obviously copied and pasted the entire piece of code. So we've got our imports at the top. I can't even remember what the platform import does. Tries to retrieve as much platform identity as possible. It makes this information available via APIs. I wonder where it gets used actually. Let me have a look. Control F, because I'm going back. This is a case in writing code, like how well you wrote your code. Let's just have a look anyway. Go to the next one, platform. Okay, fine. Yes, that's to check what platform that the user is on. If I was running this off of Chrome, then it would detect Linux and it would do the different Chrome options. So again, the web driver, there's one for Windows and one for Linux, or at least you have to access them or run them in different ways. So it was needed to do that, and that's quite useful. It's a useful feature, not just for, I know that this is a bit of fun here, where you're trying to swipe left and right on Tinder or Bumble or any of these apps, but actually if you want to determine your system, platform.system, and then you can determine your system. So that was quite useful actually. So a nice little reminder. Go back to the top. So anyway, I create a class, and inside the class I initialize it. So I initialize the class there, and the first thing we do is the Chrome driver, so everything. And the reason why you use classes, or the reason why I use the classes, I think because basically encapsulation, it keeps it all nice. Now I've got the self.chrome options. I didn't have to do classes, but I think this type of thing lends itself potentially to classes. Maybe if I was going to build up even more and do more stuff. But basically the Chrome options is now in self, so when I run the next function, the Chrome options are already saved and so forth. Anyway, there's a couple of different things that you can do, and initially I was running this kind of stuff not in a headless browser, but then the many websites do this. They detect if you've got headless browsers and they don't like automation, or sorry, they detect if you're running an automated tool, like if you're running Selenium. And the way one of the ways that they can detect this is if your browser's got if it's got a header and it's sort of like says it's like a Selenium thing, they just won't give you access. So you can run a headless browser. So that's what I did, and the way that you can do that is with the Chrome options.add argument and then make it headless. I can't remember what these other pieces were. I remember what this one is, disable GPU. I can't remember why I would have done that, but there might be a good reason for it. Well, there probably was. And here, window size, I think that's to specify the window size. Now, in this particular, so anyway, then I go through and I determine which platform it is, and depending on whatever platform that we're on, I'm using Windows currently, and I think I was using Windows at the time. It sets the Chrome driver path to the correct path that you need, and also the options to the correct option. So that's what this little bit does, an if else. And if, funnily enough, this should be an if else. So, I should correct it. I'm not going to correct it because it's legacy code. But if you are writing similar code, you'll probably change this to an if else. Because the reason why is because there's no else afterwards. So it's like that would be good practice, basically. Then after that, so then I'm checking that it's running, so I print a statement because obviously it wasn't. Then we've got this base URL, and you're going to point it to the thing that you want to swipe left and right on. By the way, it doesn't have to be Tinder, or it doesn't have to be Bumble. It could be any other thing that required the swiping. Now I've got a function for navigation in there, and all that does is it goes and gets a URL and navigates to the function. And we can see here that I've got this sleep here, and I presume that if I was going to do the random, no need to wait if using expected conditions. Okay, this expected conditions over here is it waits for things to pop up in the browser that you're expecting to see. For example, like a sign-in button or a like button or something. So that's what the expected conditions does. But if you don't have expected conditions, then you should probably wait for a fraction of a second to make sure that the website has loaded. So that's what that time.sleep was for, because I obviously didn't have or know about expected conditions at the time, so that was my mechanism for doing it. But thereafter, I didn't need to do it, so I've got that little comment, and that's what the EC, the expected conditions, was. Then click the like button. And that probably would have been the expected condition, that there was a like button, because if the like button hasn't loaded on the page, you can't go and auto click on it. And in fact, I do see just down below, so that's true, find the click button. And the way that you do this is you sort of like in your Chrome, and I won't open up a Chrome now. Maybe I could on this barred thing here, but you can do inspect, and you can. I wonder if that will actually open it. You won't see it opening here actually, unfortunately. But basically, you can do inspect, and then that will open up something, and you can kind of like browse to the exact X path of where you're going to go. And I've called this XP, this variable XP, because it's the X path, and it's like by X path. You can find the exact pointer that you need to go to, which is, and so I find the exact button that I need to go to, and then I invoke this expected condition, because if that button hasn't popped up, then I don't continue to run the code. So we do this wait until this expected condition, and you want the element to be clickable, so that's part of the expected conditions. An expectation for checking an element is visible and enabled such that you can click it. So if you can't click it, it just hangs around. I believe here that it waits for 20 seconds, this WebDriver wait. Yeah, I believe that's the timeout. So the first argument is the driver, which is self.driver. We're encapsulated because we're in a class, and the next one is this float. And presumably even here, yeah, it says number of seconds before timing out. So wait up to 20 seconds for the button to load. It probably load within 2 or 3 seconds, but I gave it 20 anyway in this piece of code. And then I think there was other bits, but obviously they became not needed. But anyway, I've got a print done here. And then all I did really thereafter was run my bot in a loop. Okay, that's my function. So this function, at some point, I've got this if name equals main guard, a very common idiom, and that's going. So if name equals main, I don't need that here in this particular thing, because it's only a one-level script. I'm not calling it from any other script, so I don't need if name equal. If the double underscore name double underscore double equals double underscore main double equals, what that means is it's checking that if this file was run from itself. But I could have just run bot in loop. So anyway, all of the class gets read in. Effectively, what this does, which is quite nice, is it does a form of what I'm going to call hoisting, because nothing gets run. All of these functions are just read until we run this piece of code. So if name equals let's run the bot. Let's run this loop bot. So what's it going to do now? At one point, I obviously required a username and a password, and the way that I did that was via probably a credentials file. I wonder if I had the import there. Clearly not. Or I've obviously moved it out. But one thing that I would have done, possibly, I can see that this would be very, very lazy, but instead of doing like a JSON file or environment variables, I'd have probably created the username and password in a separate file somewhere, but I just labeled it a password file and imported that file, credentials SCR, and then called out the username and password. So literally, like, I might have made, if I go to this one here, something like this, and just said username equals, and whatever my username is, blah blah blah, and and password equals, and then my password, so forth. And then I would have just imported this file in the imports up here, import that, and I would call it something at credential. I obviously called it credentials SCR. And then I can expose the cr.username, cr.password. That's how you import in Python anyway. So that's relatively straightforward. And then we're going to, well, this is before the actual loop process. So pre-loop start, I called it pre-loop setup, all of the things that we've got to do before. So we're going to create an instance of the Bumble class. That was this class up here that we created, that we made. So we've got an instance of the Bumble class, and it's going to do all of the things that we need to do. There's no arguments that go into this. Notice why I did this in 2020. This is not great practice because I haven't commented it or anything like that. Although maybe again it's a short script, you don't need to comment it. But really I should have put some comments in. But basically there's no arguments that come in here. So sort of like I could have put args, no arguments, and so forth. Or here just a class to do whatever and scrape through. But let's just continue then. Bot.nav. So we're invoking the function once we've created our bot. And then, wait for a PIN number. So that's what happens currently at the moment, actually, which is if I was to run this script, at some point between 2020 and now, Tinder or Bumble cottoned on to the fact that maybe some users were doing this kind of thing. So they made like a 2FA type of thing where you had to put in your PIN number to kind of like sign in or something. So, and then it sent you that to your mobile phone or to an email address. So it was one layer for them to protect. And you could automate that as well, because you could scrape your email in and just pass that straight in. But I just did it as an input just to keep it kind of like working. So I'd have got a PIN number. I think the reason why is because at the time you only had to enter it once and then it worked like a dozen times. So it was fine thereafter, so long as you left it open. So it waits to get an input for the PIN number, and it does a sleep. Again, does a sleep probably because I wasn't using the expected conditions. And then it starts a process. See time.current time. I guess convert the time in seconds to the epoch time. So, okay, yeah. It just starts a process. It just prints and sort of like prints every time that it's doing it. And then it goes and clicks the bot.click like. And again, I will have commented it. Make a text post. Why is that the comment? I'm presuming that should be clicking the like button. It should probably say fix and click like button. Again, I'm not going to correct that. It's just a doc string. But really, you should label and write all your doc strings properly. And then finally, I don't do this here. I've got a end here, and the reason why is I think, I didn't want to run it potentially. But basically, when it does work, and if you do get it to work, then I would uncomment. So I don't want to return none and break the loop early. I would actually uncomment this like that, and then everything would run, and it would here I've just run it 10 times. So click the like button 10 times, and say you've clicked the like button. And here where there's a time.sleep, the random was at the top, because really I wouldn't use time.sleep 0.5, but you'd do something like n equals random dot rand. Maybe just a random dot random to get a random number between 0 and 1. That might be sufficient, but then multiply it by like 3. And then put n in here instead is what you'll do, and that'll give you some randomization so that you couldn't be detected again. And that was really it. I'm not even going to save this, but it's relatively simple. So go find yourself a girlfriend or boyfriend using some Python codes on Tinder, Bumble. I think there's other ones like Hinge and so forth. All of the swipe left or right dating apps. If you can't be bothered to swipe left or right, then there you go. You can use this, and there's other things that you can do as well, where you can select detect words and other things, maybe in the profiles to select people you like, or maybe you can even do pattern recognition. This is something that I was going to do just for fun, so like face recognition to only like the types of people that I might like. So just things like that. So AI might, you can do it with AI probably a bit better. We got Google Bard and so like ask how it gets done and go from there. So that's basically it. It's not complete running code. You'd have to work on it, but it did definitely work in 2020. I used it like hundreds and hundreds of times. Great fun to use. A bit of fun. Nice bit of coding. If you like the video, click like. If you've got any questions on it, because it isn't now a fully working product anymore, then by all means feel free to ask questions. If you did find it useful and helpful and you like this channel, then follow the channel. And that's it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll call this. I'm going to call this one "How to Get a Girlfriend in Python." So that's it.